right, whenever you're in.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to do roll call.
Mrs. Petropoulos absent. Mrs. Lebudzic,
Present.
Mrs. Lamel,
Here.
Mrs. Grove. Here. Mr. Medina.
Here.
Mrs. Birkin. Here. Mrs. Schroeder.
Present.
In the absence of Chrissy Petropoulos tonight, we're going to have Joy Lebudzik, our vice president, fill in for the president. So I'll let you take over the meeting.
Great. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
We're very excited tonight to recognize our third trimester straight A students. I always say that this, to me, is the hardest trimester to get straight A at the end of the year. We're all getting anxious for summer. The weather's usually getting a lot nicer, more and more activities. So I want to congratulate all of our students for being here this evening and braving the rain and coming here excited to celebrate. Yeah, we're very excited. So I'm going to call up our first school tonight, which is going to be Ridge Lawn, to give out their awards.
We'd like to recognize the students we have in fourth grade, Fatima and Salah. Roll Hamlin and Salah. Why Ali? Leslie Palacios. Amir Lara. And our fifth graders, please recognize Celine Shaver.
Because I'm gonna have you come down a little bit and then you're gonna move up to right about there. There you go. Perfect. Great job.
Good job, guys.
Good job.
Next up, we're gonna have Ruth Central come and present their certificates.
We are going to begin with our fourth graders. Amelia Russell. Adrian Urquiza. Adnan Abdullah. Ava Balson. Amelia Basorka. Violet Bogart.
Anthony Calderon. Zachariah Fowler. Olivia Jordan. Sophia King. Gracie Rodriguez. Marlene Romo. Now on to our fifth graders. Arslan Alternappy. Stella Booker. Olivia Dominia. Isaac Oka. Anna Radzinski. Naima Lowry Jackson. Amelia Marson. Liliana Martinez. Bashir Rabaki. Sophia Taher. Angela Ramirez. Sebastian Rodriguez. Cortez Ramirez. Gabriella Thompson. Charles Duder. Leila Jackson. Maya Sada. Claire Lou. George David Byron.
Very good, everyone. You can step up a little bit. You can see behind you. Is one row okay, Mrs. Nottingham? Want
a little shorter now.
to go in the front row?
I have to, I'm gonna go right here.
Guys, take a quick one. Congratulations, everybody. You can go over by that way.
Last one I asked, who's the younger to this station to come up and present again for finishing your high. Hi, everyone. We'd like to recognize and congratulate all of our 50 students on their straight A awards for the third trimester. We will start with our sixth grade group with Valentino Edward. Next up, Rimas Al-Hamada. Arpagon Alterman. Nabil Batru. Liliana Damara. Aiden Elmer Sandin. Adris Falah. Jaden Hernandez. Abdelaziz Jaber. Rama Mansour. Rugay Mana. Saif Mufti. Lorelli Powell. Waleed Rafati. Besiege Sufran. Sorry, no, I didn't do that. I tried to, really. Kyrie Terry. Dylan Miller. Zachary Willer. And then Mina Zayed. Oh yeah, we'll take a quick picture with our sixth grade, and then we'll do seventh and eighth grade.
You want to come down just a little bit? I'm ready. Move up a little bit, guys. Kind of in this line here.
Pick it up off.
Good job. Good job. Go there.
All right, now for our seventh graders, Saeed El Nasser. Anna Clement. Salah Macroft. Miguel Udine Jr. Maya Paredes. Maya Paczynski. Jada Zemansky. Tiana Valenti. And now lastly, our eighth grade group. Graduating students. First up, Sawad El-Asfar. Omar Awad. Emily Ayala. Abdul Rab Bengabar. Mohammed Bengabar. Liliana Brown. William Devos III. You get real extra credit comes in for graduation.
Yeah, you
Good job, Lily. Theosa Edine Matua. Isabel Frater. Liliana Hernandez. Cormac Trixler. Ashley Ayala Xavier.
Great.
Good job, guys.
I think we can stand in the front row.
I'm buying the-
Good job. Guys.
I once again want to congratulate not only the students, but the families on a great accomplishment for the third trimester. I know I've seen many of these students all 3 times you've done this 6 years, so congratulations. I just want to wish all of you the best summer, whether you are moving up to 5th grade or moving on to high school. We're very excited for you and please keep doing a great job. We do have some extra snacks for some of our siblings who are here. So on the way out, if each sibling would like to take 1 bag, they're going to be right at the exit door. You are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you are also, it's okay if you want to leave right now. Have a wonderful summer. We get started in like 2 minutes.
I've only been in it for a day, but I've been out. But I can't complain, right? Because neither of the 2 days was I at work. So I would take it. All right, board, are we ready to rock or what?
We are.
All right, potential 3.0 potential board action to accept a donation from Enchanted Backpack in the amount of $6,515.52. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll second it.
Mr. Medina.
Yes.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Birkin. Aye. And Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. All right, 4.0. Approval of all items on the consent agenda, pages 1 and 2. Can I have a motion, please?
And the only thing I wanted to point out, under the student handbook and discipline code, we only had 1 change this year. Illinois law requires by July 1st, we have almost 2 pages additional in the parent handbook regarding face law and abuse of children and how to contact people. So that is verbatim from our attorney, what they suggested that we have in there. Other than that, those 2 documents stayed the same, other than updating the years. So.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. 5.0 superintendent's report.
Yeah, so welcome and happy summer. We are into the 2nd day of summer break and our teaching staff who is here already looks well rested and rearing to go. But we, as you walked in, you probably saw it already doesn't look like a normal school. Our hallways are either completely emptied out or covered with so much stuff. We have things blocked off everywhere. Construction like happened big time over at Central. They demoed stuff all day Saturday. They're here till Sunday at 6 p.m. We had our custodians working. So things are really in our summer motion right now, which is very exciting. But I also wanted to point out what a nice graduation ceremony that we had. I know about half the board was able to make it. And just a really, really nice ceremony. We had some 5th grade celebrations. And we also had our last PTA event of the year on a Thursday night, which we did outside in front of Finley. Very well attended. We got to dunk numerous administrators, which was always enjoyable for me to see, which raised quite a bit of money, which Mrs. Moore was leading. So it went very, very well. So just a very good end to the school year. Things kind of calmed down for us the last couple weeks, which is really nice to see. Enrollment update, we are down 4 students from this time last year, which is, I mean, this could happen at any moment. So we've stayed pretty consistent. We've seen some ups and downs throughout the year, but to end the year down 4 is within kind of the range that we normally see. Vacant positions and possible staffing needs. Some of the ones that we are really looking for, a lot of junior high, we have math, special ed positions that we are still looking for, paras across the entire district. And we just had an Eisenhower cooperative meeting, which is made up of all the schools feeding into 218. And almost every district is looking for between 5 and 10 paraprofessionals. We're in the same boat for sure, if not a little bit more. So that's something that people are looking for everywhere. And then some speech language pathologists. So if anyone has any friends who are just bored at home and have any of these certificates, please give them my cell phone number and we'll be in quick contact. But I will say our admin team has been doing a really good job of when they see an application that they want to interview, they call them right away. They're getting them in. We're trying to go through the process quickly while also doing our due diligence to make sure that we're getting quality candidates. So complaint managers, I am happy once again to appoint Carrie Hilligans and Kathy Picciolini to serve as the district's complaint managers for next year. It is their favorite role in the district. So they begged me to make sure I include them. So I would recommend that we approve them. I'm also going to ask for short-term hiring authority, which we normally do at the second meeting in June, but we figured this is a shorter agenda, so let's just get it done here. Because we don't meet in July, and then especially the meetings in August, when we're starting to get near the school year, and let's say we have a resignation or something we're not expecting from a teacher, we can't technically have them in the classroom if I don't have this authority until the board has approved that. And that can become a problem. So what happens is if we're going to hire someone, I immediately email and let you know kind of what we're looking at, but then they won't officially be approved by the board till the next board meeting, although they can start at that time. So we're looking for that. And then finally, 5.5 is our e-learning days. The state of Illinois allowed that actually the year before COVID, they put that in. We started it in the 2021 school year, and it is good for 3 years. It is something that has to be negotiated with both unions, CREA and CRES. So we've talked to them, and we really don't want to make any changes. We think we have a really fair plan, both for our staff and our parents, understanding that these days come out of nowhere. And to expect a parent to be able to sit with a second grader the entire time in front of a screen is probably not realistic. We also don't try to use these all the time, even though we had that one fake day this year that it didn't snow at all. But we really try to not abuse it just because they give us 5. We know it's not the same as being in the classrooms at times. So we want to make sure that we get kids here as often as possible. So that's just kind of an informational item right now. It is required in July that we put a notice in the paper that we'll be having a hearing in August that the board will then have to vote on. So that's this is just kind of the informational piece for you. And finally, 5.6, my other, I'm happy to report with Mrs. Bucheri's work, partnering with other districts. We had our first EL English class last night for our parents to learn English. Yesterday was the beginner class, and tonight is the more advanced class. So that's once a week for the next couple weeks. And I'm really proud that we were able to partner with somebody and kind of pool our resources together to make that happen. So
Did you have a good turnout? So it's just
It
good.
was about 11.
Wow, awesome.
We was about the number that.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week there was a few people fall. They're important.
Great.
yeah, and I think if that's something that the word can spread in the community, that it's not an intimidating thing and you can come in and get this done, I think we'll see larger and larger numbers. So, yeah. I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Nothnagel, who has her PowerPoint ready to go.
The 6.1 is my presentation on behalf of the design team for the Portrait of a Learner, which I'll make it brief since many of you were a part of the work already. So we decided in about this time last year that we wanted to create a portrait of a learner on behalf of all the students and the stakeholders in the community of Chicago Ridge. And so I will be presenting the work that the team had done and then the final competencies that the team has decided upon. So just briefly, these are, you can see the number of dots here are the number of people that we had participate over the meetings. We had board members, we had parents, we had staff members, administrators, and teachers. We had paraprofessionals, community stakeholders from the Chicago Ridge Library, the village, the police department, and many other parents and community members as well. So just as a reminder, I know that many of you already know this, our vision is to build leaders in learning and lay the foundation to prepare students for higher education. And it is the mission of Chicago Ridge School District, in collaboration with all stakeholders, to provide a holistic education for those students by facilitating innovative and challenging learning experiences. So what this work is, as a portrait of a learner, will be able to create action steps so that we can actually start to align what we're doing on a regular basis within professional development and curriculum and instruction, and connecting within the community to reach the vision and the mission. So we started by going over to Richards High School. You'll see some former students there, all Finley graduates, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, to kind of hear their input on what we could be doing as a district to better prepare our students for the future. We met 7 times over the course of from February to May 31st, and then today's June 13th. Our final meeting is presenting this to you. For our competencies, we really started to look at what are the future ready skills that we want to recognize and take on in Chicago Ridge. What are we doing now? How are we doing it? What are we doing really well? And what do we need to continue to work on to accomplish this? From there, we then did a lot of research on these competencies. What are they? What do they mean to us? What's out there in the world, and how can we best prepare our students, be it for now, for the day-to-day, but then also in the future? And we came up with posters. Each table came up with these words that they really felt encompassed the goal that we had. And the green dots are where staff, the design team members felt was most important. So you'll see some have more dots than others because more people thought that that was important to all of our community. We then decided to really get into the specifics on, are we encompassing these as nouns, as verbs, as adjectives? There's a lot of work. It was a ton of work that the design team spent hours over those meetings, really diving into to make sure that what we roll out is clear and clear not only to our students and our staff members, but to our families and in our community as well. So a lot of work went into this process at this stage. From there, we then took those competencies and determined definitions. And this is actually 3 different steps that we took. Everybody gave input on their definition. We kind of took all of that definitions here and put it into this wording here, and then took it one step further and added it. And those aren't even the final definitions. Just goes to show how much work and effort that it took for the design team to get to this point. So I'm proud to announce, and happy to announce, if you want to read that quote, it's in your packet there on your at your spots. But I'm excited to announce our 5 competencies are innovative, which means to generate and communicate innovative ideas and creative solutions using bravery and curiosity. Collaborative, communicate information effectively and respect others' ideas and perspectives to achieve a common goal. Accountable, recognize and accept responsibilities for one's feelings, thoughts, and actions and how they impact oneself and others. Resilient, adapt and persevere through changes and experiences that occur as one grows. And lastly, engage. So we want our students to be actively involved in one's own learning and within their community. And through this process of all of these meetings, these are the 5 competencies that we are recommending to the board and sharing with the board today, along with their definitions. We are also very excited that it creates a lovely educational acronym of I-CARE, which we were very excited at the end that came out to that. I think I even encouraged us all to high five because we were able to get there. So our next steps really with this work will be, how do we sustain that progress? How do we get from just these words and these definitions living on documents or living on walls, if you will, and really implementing them into the buildings and into the work that we're doing with professional development, curriculum purchases, implementation in the classrooms and things like that. So the first step will be creating a design, a logo, if you will, for this work. And I will be meeting with Mr. Medina tomorrow to go through kind of what the design team has really looking for, something that's connected, that all of these things work together, but that is clear to our families and what each one is separately as well. Something similar to this, these are Palos Heights examples, but that really encompasses our community, our students, our student body, but then also they become these competencies, that they're living them. And just some other examples as well, and how we will tell our story. So we do need to come up with kind of that next step. And so some examples that we would be doing that through is our student advisory that Dr. Pace with Dr. Thorne several times a year. We'll develop friendly language for each of those competencies, more student friendly, develop indicators that connect with our portrait of a learner for accountability. So what are the rubric that we will use to be able to determine that we're successful with the implementation of these? And then gather the design team to develop more of that implementation plan. How can we bring this to our community? How can we bring this to our families? How can we bring it to the staff? And how can we make sure that our students are aware as well? So again, thank you to the design team. The amount of work, if you lived it, you know it. If you weren't there, hopefully you get it. It was a ton of work that was really dedicated, and no one gave up and no one quit, but really great opportunity to really encompass that stakeholder component of our mission and making sure that everyone's voices are being heard.
Any questions for Mrs. Nothnagel? Again, I want to thank the design team and Megan. It was a ton of work. We even had one meeting we thought we weren't going to need at the end. And I thought it was very smart that we had it because we were able to wrap everything up together. And just everyone who was there because they care about the kids. And that's really what it comes down to. And if this just lives in a PowerPoint or on a piece of paper, we did not do a good job. As she said, we needed to get it to permeate the buildings and the student minds and our families and our teachers. So we still have a lot of work ahead, but I think what we accomplished already is really good work. So
6.2 summer school professional development. So the first thing is just a reminder, we've been talking a lot about summer school. It is upon us. The next few days, I will be working with the summer school staff and training them on the curriculum resources that they'll be using and helping them prep their classrooms. Summer school does start June 20th and goes until July 20th. With some days off in there for 4th of July. And we are, again, this year providing breakfast to all of our students that come in the door during these 17 days as well. So we're looking forward to that starting next Tuesday, a week from today. For professional development this summer, we are lucky enough that we have partnered with ISC4, which is our regional office. For part of SEL in a hub, they're calling it. So social emotional learning hub is basically a group that we're working with, and they've actually provided free of charge through the grant at a CHAMPS training for all of our for 18 staff members that were able to come in today and tomorrow. CHAMPS is a classroom positive behavior management system. So the staff is spending time of how they'll start the year, how they'll handle different behaviors in their classroom, how they'll motivate students, how they will set up their classroom or react to different situations that come up. So a lot of staff that are even here today are attending, and then we have teachers and new staff as well that were invited. We're lucky to be able to bring them on board with that, and thankful for that partnership. Casper and UIC, we have partnered with them for 4 years now. It is a math organization. We've talked about them over the years. This summer, we'll be having 3 different opportunities to work with them closely during the summer. The first meeting will be actually next week, Thursday. Our administrative team will be meeting with them to build our capacity on our goals for next year of making practice public. And also building effective teams. And so we'll start with that meeting. And then in August, we'll have 2 separate meetings, one with our district math leadership team and our administrators to take the work from the admin team and the work that they've been doing, and then the DMLT, the district math leadership team, and bringing those things together so that we're both working towards the same goals. And we're aware of how we can support each other with that implementation of those goals next year. And then we will have our DMLT, our district math leadership team, kick off the following August 11th, and then August 14th, we'll have the kickoff. So lots of opportunities over the summer for that math and building those effective teams and making practice public. We also will be providing Foundations Level 3 training. We have now adopted Foundations kindergarten through 3rd grade, and next year we're going to bump it to 4th grade. Foundations is a phonics program that works with our students on recognizing letter sounds combinations in the really early stages of learning how to read and being proficient with decoding words. So we're going to bring in our third grade teachers that only got a little webinar last year, and our fourth grade teachers, reading specialists for that training, a full day over the summer in August, which we're really thankful for that opportunity right before the school year starts. Any questions on that? Okay, 6.3 Dreambox. So as some of you know, we have students, kids in the district. They might have come home and been working on Dreambox or talked about it. Dreambox is an online math resource that we were lucky enough to pilot this year for several weeks for our kindergarten through 8th grade students. It is the equivalent, data shows, to be a one-on-one tutor impact. So it aligns directly with our math curriculum resource, Illustrative Math, and teaches and works through kids on conceptual learning of concepts. So why it works, not just the multiple choice rote memorization and procedures of 4x4 is, and 5x5 is. It really gives them the opportunity to work through different problems using manipulatives, hands-on tools. And actually we've had really good feedback. We have a first grader, she might be in second grade now. She was working one-on-one with the teacher and she said, oh, I know how to do this. I remember because I did it in Dreambox, and it applied directly to the math problem that she was doing within her illustrative math resource. It aligns and directly associates with math testing, NWEA math testing and things like that. So needless to say, what we would like to do is ask the board to approve the purchase of Dreambox for our students for next year. That would be effective immediately. So students would have the opportunity, if they had a device at home, to go onto the website and work through that over the summer, and then all of next year as well. As we implement small group instruction, it's going to be a really great opportunity for our students to use that technology as a resource, and not just for games, but for a learning experience. And that later in the meeting, we'll ask you to approve that. Questions?
Thank you.
And I don't have any others.
That's very surprising. I'm going to pass it on to Kathy.
Wow, no other, Megan. Wow, how do I follow that? Okay, so just a construction update. Whichever building you seem to be in, you're going to find in disarray because of all the construction. We are about 2.5 months away from completing a project that costs more than $8 million. I mean, how exciting is that? Going on over at Finley, they're still working on the expansion of the 4 classrooms and the addition of 2 classrooms. The brickwork over there is almost done. Central, from what I understand, is a complete hot mess. The principal showed me some pictures because the minute the students got out of there on Friday, our construction company was in there and totally demolishing everything. So that is underway. And then obviously over here at Ridge Lawn, the courtyard, which is just amazing. And I believe Dr. Thorns is going to take everyone for a little field trip after the meeting. But the progress is just amazing. And they're working on bathroom floors and eventually partitions for the student bathrooms. The intercoms have not started yet. That won't be until the end of June, but just a lot of exciting things going on. And 2 smaller projects, our rooftop unit replacement that actually was supposed to start 2 years ago, that started a year ago, is just hopefully about a week or 2 away from completion. There were a lot of issues with supply chains on that one. And then we'll also be having a door replacement project that was approved a long time ago, probably about in December of last year, which is part of our facility refresh. Totally different from this big $8.8 million project, and that will be starting. Everything's on track, and that will be done by the start of the school year. So summer food service is 7.2. We were able to terminate our contract with Open Kitchens. So that contract will actually end on June 19th rather than June 30th. And the reason we did that is we wanted our students to have a little continuity in breakfast over the summer. So as soon as summer school starts, we will be offering all of our students a free breakfast that will be provided now by Quest Food Management, our new company. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. We did a lot of legwork to ensure some good food for our kids, so very optimistic about that. And then as part of our national school lunch program, meaning all of our students eat breakfast and lunch for free, since we are offering summer school to our students, we do offer free breakfast to our community as well. And so unfortunately, last year, we really didn't have any takers, but it is out there. I have asked the principals to send out a flyer announcing our program. It will only run through the summer from June 20th through July 20th. And students, individuals 18 years and younger will be eligible for a free breakfast if they're community members. And then the last thing, the big one here, 7.3, the amended budget. This is the time of year, we're done with the year, we know what we spent, so we tend to amend the budget because the purpose of the budget is to plan, and then the school year happens and it's usually not what we predicted. So fortunately, our fund balances are budgeted to end up at $29.6 million. And that is in excess of 1 year of expenditures, which is really good news. And that is up about $486,000 than we projected back in September. Our revenue was up actually 2.1 million from projected, and the two things I'm accounting for that is some additional EBF funding that we never count until it's actually in the bank. And then with the construction here at Ridge Lawn starting so quickly, we were able to incur expenses, which normally is not good news, but about $4 million of the project is going to be reimbursed through a grant. So we've already recognized about $1 million of that revenue. So that's why our revenue is up, and corresponding, the expenses are up about 1.6 million. And right off the bat, probably about 1.2 of that is directly related to the construction projects. So later in the meeting, the board will actually have two public hearings. One will be to approve the amended budget. And then we also have to have a public hearing on transferring funding out of our operating ed fund into our operation and maintenance fund. And the reason we do that is we cannot levy enough money in our O&M fund to account for our expenses. So traditionally, every year at this time, we transfer some funds. And then the last thing we'll be asking the board to approve is a $1.8 million transfer into that capital projects fund, because there's always a timing difference. We spend the money and then we get reimbursed on a quarterly basis. So we will not see that revenue stream come in until a couple more months. So a lot of action items out there. Any questions on any of those items? Okay, thank you.
Anybody have old business? New business, 9.1, public hearing on the FY 2023 amended budget for Chicago Ridge School District 127.5. I am opening the hearing at 7:17 p.m. Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the FY 23 amended budget for Chicago Ridge School District 127.5? Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the FY 23 amended budget for Chicago Ridge School District 127.5? Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the FY 23 amended budget for Chicago Ridge School District 127.5? Hearing is now closed at 7:17. Okay. 9.2, potential board action to approve amended budget for FY 23. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second. Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Bergen.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Labuda.
Aye. Agenda item 9.3, public hearing to approve permanent transfer of funds from education fund to operations and maintenance fund. I am opening the hearing at 7:18 PM. Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the permanent transfer of $1.2 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund? Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the permanent transfer of $1.2 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund? Is there anyone who would like to address the board regarding the permanent transfer of $1.2 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund? Hearing is now closed at 7:19 PM. 9.4, potential board action to approve a resolution authorizing the transfer of $1.2 million from the education fund to the operations and maintenance fund. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion. A second. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen. Aye. Mrs. Labuda.
Aye. Potential board action to approve a resolution authorizing transfer of 1.8 million from the education fund to the capital projects fund. Can I have a motion?
A second. I'm sorry, who said the second? Thank you. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Bergen. Aye. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Labuda.
Aye. Okay. 9.6, potential board action to post for a first reading of several
Yeah,
policies.
there are 13 policies here, pretty much all just a 5-year review. In talking with our attorney and looking them over myself, I'm recommending we just adopt them. There's really no changes that impact us whatsoever. So this is a first reading this time, and then at the next meeting, we could either do a second reading or just approve them at that time. So
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
A second. Okay, I got Mr. Medina on the second. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Bergen. Aye. Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. And Mrs. Labuda.
Aye. 9.7, potential board action to approve an additional one full-time employee for, as a special education teacher. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second. I'm sorry, who's on first? Thank you.
Stacy.
Sorry. I remember. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Bergen. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lammle.
Aye.
Mrs. Labuda.
Aye. 9.8, potential board action to appoint a scope representative and alternate.
And scope again is Cook County and part of Will County, South Cook and South Will. And it's really a time when we come together. It's once a month and go over kind of the legislative pieces that are happening in Springfield, what laws they're looking to pass, and it's unbelievable some of the laws that they look to pass in education. And this is a group that goes down and really is just there to get our side of the story out there with the lawmakers. Typically, our board has done the president as the representative and the vice president. It doesn't have to be, but we meet once a month. It's usually at about 1 o'clock on Mondays.
Dr. Thorns, when the motion is made, whoever makes the motion, could they please say in one sweep, this is the person for the representative and this is the person for the alternate?
Can I ask really quick?
Mhm.
Is it every month?
Just about every month, yeah. And even if you're not the representative, it's something you ever want to come to. It's not in the summer. But if it's something you ever want to come to, we can definitely go. I would say in the room, there's usually about 60 superintendents and business managers and about 3 or 4 board members who show up.
And when is it usually meeting? Like in the morning?
Mondays at 1 o'clock.
Oh, did you say that?
Yeah.
So we have to nominate 2 people?
Yes, we have to nominate the representative and an alternate.
All right, well, I'll make the motion to nominate Chrissy as our representative. You snooze, you lose. And, I mean, I guess I'll be the alternate. Can I nominate myself?
Yes.
All right, keep things moving.
I'll second it. You're volatile.
I mean, unless somebody who's not, who isn't. You want to be the representative? Scratch.
All right, the
So-
motion's gotta fail,
Yes.
so I'm gonna go around.
Oh, sure, sorry.
And we have to fail the motion and then we can redo it.
Yep,
So if you want to fail this, you can just say no, and the motion will fail.
got it.
Mrs. Lamb,
No.
Mr. Medina,
No.
Mrs. Grove, no, Mr. Schroeder. I take that now, Mrs. Birkin. No. And Mrs. Abuda.
No,
Motion fails. So can we have another motion?
I'll make a motion, that Joanne Grove is the representative and we'll make Chrissy the alternate.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, on the roll call, Mrs. Lamb,
Aye.
Mr. Medina,
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Birkin. Aye. And Mrs. Abuda.
Aye,
Well, congratulations.
thanks, Joanna. Teamwork makes the dream work. 9.9, potential board action to change June 27th, 2023 study session to a special meeting. Can I have a motion?
And we'd be looking to do this. A study session is when you make no, you don't approve anything. So because we'll have quite a few teachers and staff members that we want to get approved before we go on like summer break for the board, that's why we make it a regular meeting.
I'll second it.
And I'm sorry, who was on the first?
Joanna.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. 9.10, potential board action to approve payment to Construction Solutions of Illinois in the amount of $655,755 for building additions and renovation work done at Ridge Lawn School. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. 9.11, potential board action to approve payment to Construction Solutions of Illinois in the amount of $529,566 for building additions and renovation work done at Ridge Central and Finley. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. 9.12, potential board action to approve payment to Studio GC in the amount of $51,561.47. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Sorry, I would, two on the second. Give it to Mr. Medina. Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Birkin. Aye. And Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. 9.13, potential board action to approve the purchase of Dreambox Math for K through 8 students from 6/11 through 6/10 of 24 in the amount of $32,975. That's a good deal. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Birkin. Aye. Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
And Mrs. Abuda.
Aye.
And before we go on, just I'm very appreciative that we approved it and we recommended that even before we knew this, but with Kathy's good work, we're also getting this out of a grant. So it's not gonna hurt us. Yeah. so-
Beautiful. 9.14, potential board action to an intergovernmental agreement between the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services and Chicago Ridge School District 127.5 regarding reimbursement of expenditures for the school-based health services program. Can I please have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Birkin. Aye. And Mrs. Abuda.
Aye. Other? Meeting reports.
Nothing.
Other?
Mm-mm.
Informational? Other? Would anybody like to speak? President's prerogatives. Well, first I'd like to apologize to the both of you for spitting all over you with my mouthpiece. I can like feel it spraying. Yeah, I had to take out my bottom part. You know, I guess a big thank you to our custodial staff, our maintenance staff, Priya, press, our administrators, our office staff, our district office for wonderful year. I hope you all enjoy your break. Administrators enjoy July, recoup, get some vitamin D, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right, we are looking to go to closed session for the discussion of employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel of the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with the Open Meeting Act as defined in the Open Meetings Act, Section 2C1. The discussion of collective negotiating matters between the public body, its employees or representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employee as defined in Section 2C2. In the discussion of minutes of prior meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act as defined in Section 2C21 for the purpose of review, approval, or release of such minutes. We will not be discussing security, student discipline, or litigation during this meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Medina on a second. Mrs. Grove. Aye. Mrs. Lammo.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Aye. Mrs. Bergen. Aye. And Mrs. LeBlancy.
Aye.
7:29.
All right.